Thank you again to the folks that wrote and said, hey, CO, AC in 170 is awful, all right? I appreciate knowing that. And frankly, I appreciated somebody, whoever, maybe more than one, saying, is this how we're doing so well in the Energy Biggest Loser contest? Good question. And it's fair to ask that question because we were talking a lot about saving energy. I'm going to tell you right now, I would not do that to you, period. And I think I made it clear in my responses that went out on the Facebook page. Now, here's what's changed. Thanks to the people that took the time to write the ICE comments. And I want to thank them for writing it, and I want to thank them for trusting that it would actually get addressed, that we care. Because I read all of these ICE comments. You may not believe it, but I read them. You may not read the responses, but I read all the ones that come in, and we do respond to them. So here's what's happening in the world of 170 specifically. There's a $1.5 million project that we've been working this year to overhaul the entire building. So you probably are aware that there's work going on there. Well, what is the work? Well, the work, quite simply, is pretty much a whole rebuild of the entire building from the inside out. No, not the walls, but kind of everything else. The electrical, the air conditioning, all the water that supports the air conditioning system, all the heating, right? All of that. The whole system, everything's getting rebuilt. And it's, as you would expect, very energy efficient. But for those of you that might want to be cynical, don't mistake energy efficient with no air conditioning. Those are two different things. The fact that you suffered air conditioning is because the old systems sucked and are broken, and nothing to do with saving energy. The new systems, for those that are already in what we would call phase 1 and 2, the areas that have been completed, those work. And they happen to be energy efficient. We use the energy that cools the air to also preheat your hot water. So it's a good system. All of that's being done. Now, to accommodate the folks, when I got the sense of the magnitude of the problem with the air conditioning, I said, all right, stop. We're not doing this anymore. If we can't fix it, we're going to move folks out. And I have already signed a bunch as of last week, and I think I got about a dozen more of chits to allow you to move out. Just go. All right? You're big boys and girls. It's good for you. It's good for the project. And in doing that, we're going to take the last 2 phases. There's 5 phases of this project. And we're going to combine them into one, and the whole project will be done by December. Everybody should have received how to place a trouble call on your rooms. Okay? I get a report now every day on that kind of stuff. So when the air conditioning's out, if it's not repaired, I'm getting a report on it. All right? If something happens and you're placing trouble calls and it's business as usual in the old sense that you would place a trouble call and nobody would do anything about it, that's not the way I expect business to be done. I'm telling you, as you're witnessing it, if that's happening, I got to know. If you're placing a trouble call, you're doing your part, it's not getting responded to, write me another ICE comment. Write me an email, christopher.dennis@eu.navy.mil. You can write me an email, okay? If you're going through the project, you send me your trouble call ticket number, right? Go ahead and put that in there. Let me know the details, and we'll follow up on it. Another thing people are asking questions about, it's all essentially a security-related thing. Some folks are now required to carry blue cards. Some folks are required to carry red cards, right? Why do you have to carry these cards? It's pretty straightforward. Prove that you live there, right? That's the point. So you can say, I live in this residence. That and your key card should make it very clear that you're an authorized resident. If you don't have those, then you shouldn't be in there after hours. Another question, Skipper, why do we lock all the doors on the ground floor except the central one, right? And then the follow-on part of that comment, which is a smart question. You already have a quarterdeck watch there, so why do we have to have a key card to get in? Okay, so the answer: we don't have a quarterdeck watch there every day. We actually only have the quarterdeck watch there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on holiday days. And it runs from 21 to 06, which means that 4 out of the 7 days of a non-holiday week, there is no quarterdeck watch, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, no quarterdeck watch. Guess what? That means that you're on your own in terms of self-discipline. You either choose to abide by the rules or you choose to break them. Yes, we do have security cameras there. And yes, we record everything that happens in common spaces inside and outside the buildings every day. And yes, that same security footage has proven valuable in court-martial as well as NJP cases. And we keep video for long periods of time. Use that information as you need. Point is that having that card and having those doors locked is an added security measure. When I got here, what I heard from people that lived in the residence, yourselves, was it wasn't a very healthy environment. I had a lot of people come up to me and tell me they did not feel comfortable living in the barracks. I don't know, since I didn't live in the barracks, and I don't live in the barracks, what the right characterization is. But I think the right way to say it is, these people in their own words said they didn't feel comfortable living there. It was unruly, out of control. I can tell you from some of the mass cases I saw that it really was unruly and out of control. I can also tell you a lot of very not nice things happen in the barracks. It's by no means perfect, but it's a lot safer now than it was then. And I have people also tell me that they're happier, they feel safer. In fact, the Diomi survey for Naval Air Station Sigonella, my 2 UX, safety of housing was across the board, highest marks of any question asked for any rank in this base. Everybody, I mean like 1% said no, but essentially everybody said yes, I feel safe. That's a good indication that people have safe housing. And these measures are part of that. I had somebody write a comment, hey, we have cats roaming around inside the barracks. Don't let the cats in. Don't leave the doors open. All right, seriously. If you're scared to pick up the stray cat and put it outside and close the door behind you, that's fine. Call security. But get the cats out of the building. All right, this is not rocket science. Doors are closed. The cats don't have a key card, and they don't have a blue or a green card. They're not getting in the building, so you're letting them in. Don't let them in. Flooding and fires in the laundry rooms. Again, flooding and fires. These things happen. So here's the deal on the flooding. These machines are high efficiency. So in typical dentist think, oh, these are really dirty clothes, so a little soap, they'll be pretty clean. If I put in a lot of soap, they'll be really clean. No. If you put in too much soap, the machines will flood. Okay, that's what's happening. Just like you wouldn't give an infant too much medicine, don't give the machines too much soap. All right? That's what's going on there. Let's avoid it by everybody maturely and responsibly using the machines. Same goes with fires in the dryers. All right? Got to clean the lint out. You actually have to take that extra step, pull the little net out, clean it, put it back in. We have contracts to go around and actually clean the vent tubing. All right? So that shouldn't be the cause. But if we don't clean the lint out, then it will overheat, and that lint will catch on fire because it's combustible, and then we'll have a fire. This is a good question. Why, CO, are we putting up shade and stuff like that when our air conditioning isn't working? Good question. Here's the way it works. Congress, actually specifically, authorization is by the Senate, appropriations is by the House. Okay, but they do it together, and you get one big bill that the president signs, and then that tells us how to spend our money. And in doing that, all that money has different codes. So in other words, if Congress says to the Navy, go build a new aircraft carrier, the Navy can't take that aircraft carrier and go build a new base. So we get really detailed guidance. You have this much money to do this much money to do this, and so forth and so on. It's law. So when we don't follow it, people go to jail. So here's the deal. The money I'm spending, the 1.5 million taxpayer dollars that have authorized and appropriated by Congress to the Department of the Navy, right, the executive branch, we're spending in an account called ST. That's not the same money as we were using to build shade structures or to run the Take 5 or any other number of things that we do around the base. Those all have individual lines of accounting. So one doesn't have any influence, frankly, on the other. You know, for instance, this project, we'll say originally was $3 million, but and we got that through Congress, but now it's $1.5 million. What do you do with the extra money? Well, if we have legitimate projects, right, that are legitimate needs here on the base in that same line of accounting, and we get permission from higher headquarters, then we can use it to do those projects. If we don't have permission or we don't have the projects, et cetera, then the money gets taken back up to higher headquarters and then redistributed across the bases, maybe in the region or even within all of CNIC, or taken all the way back up to the big Navy where they may be able to use it for other things. We just get fixed amounts of money and we do the best we can to understand the problems across the base, understand the priorities across the base, and use the limited money we have in the best way possible. So when I talk to you and all of us about resource conservation, that's a particular type of funding, and it's actually fairly broad in how it can be expended. So by saving energy, we can actually use that money to do other things across the base that may improve your quality of life. I got a comment, great honest comment about, Skipper, why should I use the Arrive Alive card? And the comment was, how do we know if we use it we won't get in trouble? Good question. Here's a question back at you, or actually a statement. I can promise you, if you don't use it and you get a DUI, you're going to get in trouble. 100%, guaranteed. It's going to happen. Okay? Now, I'll also promise you that if you use it and you pay your bill, none of your chain of command will ever know. Never. That's the way the system works. Okay? You have the card. It's to you. You give it to the taxi. The taxi writes the information down. They send a bill to MWR. There's no purpose at all in MWR telling the command this. And they won't. And I've forbidden it. Okay? Unless you don't pay your bill. If you don't pay your bill, right, by the next payday, so if you take the cab on the 15th, you have till the 31st to scrape together the 30 euros or whatever to pay back the cab. If you don't do that, then the command's going to know about it. It's easy. This is so you get home safe. That's it. Nobody cares. You know, we're fighting a war right now. I got a lot of things to think about. And whether you use an Arrive Alive card twice in a month, I don't care. I don't care. I want you to get home safe. I care about that. All right? I don't care otherwise. All right. Question about quality of life survey. Ralph, when is the quality of life survey?
The quality of life survey, which is an annual requirement by CNIC for all facilities, unaccompanied and also for family housing, is due yearly. For us, it's going to be within the next 30 days. We're going to be getting all of our surveys, and we're going to make sure that all of you get your surveys so you can provide input for the quality of life here for NAS Sigonella, for you individuals in the barracks. For you who were here 2 years ago and last year, you were in on that process. Last year we received to distribute over 480 surveys. Last year we only got back and distributed out and received only about 44%. Hopefully our numbers will increase this year with your support. I really appreciate that. Those quality of life surveys are very important because we, senior management, CO, XO, CMC, all of our members here, we actually take a look at those and see what type of changes, see what type of recommendations that you bring to our attention. One of the items that came up again was dealing with, I have a $1,000 bike. I'm not allowed to have it in my room. What can I do now? That's why we saw the new additions of the sunshades for the barracks, also the bike rack covers, also the new bike rack lockers, and also bike racks themselves. So there are a lot of things that we can identify via your survey, via your information, passed directly to us, that we can take appropriate and quick action on.
Yeah, we read all those things. Okay, we read them all. And I'm glad Ralph pointed that out. The shades, the bike racks, the lockable bike lockers, all that stuff either came out of ICE program or the last year's quality of life survey or other surveys. So reread all this stuff. And the things that we agree with and we have the funds to do.
Sir, I have a general question in regards to base. So I know last year, I think there was a movement on getting the dogs off base. I don't know if anybody else brought that situation up, but I see lately there's been a number of increased dogs on base, just kind of roaming around in packs. Is there anything that we could possibly do about trying to get those dogs back off base?
Okay. So good question. All right, here's the deal. We live in Italy. All right? And this is not a cop-out. It is just a recognition of the fact. We live in Italy. Italian law is sovereign. All right? Things that you could do, I could do in the United States to deal with stray animals. The infrastructure that's in place in the United States to support dealing with stray animals is not in place here. So what can we do? Last year, we had worked with municipalities on a limited basis to have stray animals removed and taken to their version of a pound, okay? But that was a very temporary measure, and the problem is that they don't have the resources and there's a lot of stray animals in this country. They don't have the resources to deal with them, and they don't have the laws and the cultural, point of view to deal with them. So that kind of leaves it in our bag, which is where the general order came out last year, right? Not to feed. So I ask you to continue to abide by the general order. I mean, it is in fact a general order. And if we see you breaking it, you're going to be held accountable. But I ask you in the spirit of cooperation just to follow it, not because you're worried about punishment, but because you appreciate the fact that you've been bit. And I don't know what the numbers are right now. Last year, it was like 24 people that had been bitten by dogs. That's crazy. All right? 24. And I don't know what it is this year, but it's significant. The question is, the best thing we can do is make it hard on them to subsist so they'll go someplace else. We can capture them and then release them off base. But they're smart animals, you know? They have a way of finding their way right back here. So if you see an animal, and you're smart on NAS II in particular, not to run after dark, avoid those situations. I got attacked last year. They didn't bite me, but it was a close run thing. Avoid the possibilities.
I had a question why Vodafone was shut down on NAS II.
Okay.
It just seemed like another reason for us to have to make that commute over NAS I, which seems a little convenient.
Okay, fair enough. I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the changes that are coming up on the base. So, Vodafone themselves had shut back their operating hours. When I first got here, they were 6 days a week, then went to 5, then went to 2. And they were occupying a very large space for 2 days a week. Space is a premium on the base. So we gave them the option, like, no problem, 2 days a week, fine, but you can't keep this space. We suggested to Vodafone, open a kiosk in the 7-day store, right? This is, to me, a no-brainer. Then they would have a lot more foot traffic and probably get a lot more business. They didn't want to do it. They're an independent company. We can't make them. So they reconsolidated the space. So here's my suggestion to you. If you don't like it, go tell them. Honestly, I would still provide them counter space at the 7-day store if they would be willing to do it. Happy to do that. But I can't, in good conscience, knowing the competition for space, provide them a whole building, right, where they're using it for 2 days a week and very limited hours. I mean, essentially it was open like 16 hours out of a 7-day week. That's crazy. That's a total waste of resources. So they chose to shut down. Okay? Now, to my other point I'm going to talk about. So we got some big shifts coming. Anybody who eats lunch in the galley, breakfast, lunch, or dinner in the galley knows that building 560 used to be condemned. It's the building immediately to the west, right, along the fence line. It's being converted. When that's done, it'll have the normal capacity of up to 360 Marines in that building. All right, they're looking at about 312 as they're going in position. But I can tell you, it could easily go to 360. It could easily go even higher. Also, the other building, the other barracks right beside where the subway is, that's 562, right? That one is also the Marines, and that's going to get rehabbed next year, and then it'll go in probably into 17. When that's done, 282 beds. That's a lot of Marines, okay? They're all going to be on that base. So right now, we have a much smaller number of Marines, but many of them live on this base. When we're all done, very few Marines will be on NAS I. So that means we're going to put a lot of pressure on the NAS II base. So I've already got a team, a Tiger team, to look at kind of all facets of life on the bases, and specifically NAS II, to say, okay, what do we need to do to be prepared for this big shift? Because it's only going to get harder when you have that many more people. There is some good news in this. One of the good news pieces is when the Marines are there, they're going to be using rations in kind. So I know people get crabby about rations in kind, but there's goodness in it. The more people that are on rations in kind, the better the quality of the food. It's a direct translation. So you add 600 Marines to NAS II, and all of them using rations in kind, and the quality of the food is going to shoot up big time because of the way the accounting goes in the galley world. So that's a positive. I fully expect we're going to see some adjustments in base transportation between the two bases. We're going to have to accommodate all these people. So that it's ongoing. Can I tell you specifics? No, because we just recognized the challenge and now we're working through the problem. Okay, so it's more than you asked for about the Vodafone, but still worthy. Here's another thing I think you're going to be excited about. I'm very excited about it. We're going to get a USO on this base. That's not 100%, but I would put it in the 98% confidence category, right? Like something really crazy would have to happen because USO is fully committed. It's going to be on NAS II, all right? Put it in the air terminal. That's going to be the first position. Here's the good thing about a USO. A lot of good things. One, USO has stuff that complements MWR. So right now, we want to go on tours, we go to ITT. USO does that kind of stuff too, but they have different terms and conditions because they're not a government entity, they're a private entity. Often they get free stuff, and they can actually go out and solicit it. They can go to companies and say, hey, on behalf of the USO, wouldn't you like to give us stuff that we could turn around and give to service members? That's what happens all over the United States and overseas. And a lot of times, folks are like, yeah, I'd like to do that. Sure, because they see opportunity for them or just from a sense of patriotism, altruism, whatever. So that's going to happen. All right. In addition, anybody who's flown in or out of there, out of the air terminal, knows there's not a lot over there. We have now worked with the chock full of nuts to make sure they're open for the Patriot Express flights. So when they go after hours, that's an improvement. But the USO is open, should be open 24 hours a day. They'll have PB&Js and other things that USOs have, right? So that folks that are transiting back and forth will have an opportunity to be a little bit more comfortable. The longer term goal, we'll build a building for the USO, separate, near the flight line, that will be much bigger than that. This is the entry level. It's going to get a start. It's going to get a USO person here. Here's another benefit of USO. Everybody who's trying to get the Navy Volunteer Award, you're going to have this many more opportunities to volunteer. USO is staffed almost exclusively with volunteers. So you're going to have opportunities to do that too. So that's a real big gain. We're expecting that next spring.
Have we looked at all at getting another provider then to go on the NAS II?
Good question. Ms. McBain, she's our Emergency Operations Center Manager. Right behind her is Ms. Julie Herring. All right, and Julie, I'm going to let you answer the question. The question is, could we use a different provider? And Julie, if you'd explain the way we do contracting and all that for our sub-vendors, that'd be great.
Yes, we can go out for other contracts, and we have put out RFPs for other contracts to come on to NAS II. Vodafone does have the exclusive contract on NAS I at this point, but because they did decide to pull out, we've asked ITIM and some other vendors to try and come on to NAS II. However, I will say that based off of all the research and all the information that we've gathered, sales do not justify having a full-time vendor on that base. So as Captain Dennis said, we've offered, and we've also offered a kiosk portion inside the mini-mart as well to all of those vendors, and right now they're just not biting. So hopefully if we can get some sales up, then we can definitely get another vendor in there.
As of right now, there are times where you take the bus and there are not enough seats on the bus, so you get stuck waiting for another 2 hours for the next bus. So my question is, what's your plan now?
The plan now is, in addition to looking at what's happening on the base over the coming months, I've asked for a bus study right now, okay? Because I've gotten that comment, maybe from you, but certainly from people where they've had experiences where they went to get on the bus and they couldn't. And if it turns out that we have the capacity to fix it easily, then obviously we will. If it's going to cost money, then the next problem I have to figure out is what's the scope of the problem. So one answer could be, if it's not a huge problem, if it's happening once in a while, then maybe we have to institute a prioritization scheme. We owe the community a better answer. I will tell you this, we're gonna do the study, we're gonna learn stuff, and we're gonna tell you what we're gonna do. I have no problem telling the Admiral Scorby, my boss, when we need resources to fix problems. And normally, if it's possible, he'll give them if it's possible.
Do you mind discussing the changes with the BCO and the transfer to the NAS?
In the case of Mayor and I, which doesn't affect any of you, it's more clear. Essentially, the NEX will be handling the billing for everybody, and that's supposed to happen about November. And then at that point, people will be given an option. They can continue to have the same kind of service they were getting through the BCO, which now will be handled through the NEX, or maybe a commercial vendor can provide you. You may just say, I don't even want it. You may be able to buy yourself a commercial Wi-Fi hotspot, right? Something like that. That's the Marinai solution. And frankly, anybody who lives off base, they probably have the same sorts of things. And basic bottom line is it's all being negotiated. This stuff's complicated, so it's not clean. But I'll let Julie tell it to us with more words.
He is correct. We don't have complete clarity on the unaccompanied housing portion at this point. We should have something better, hopefully by mid-September when the contract is finalized. That is what we're waiting on. And the transition. There's a couple questions still with the unaccompanied side that I still have questions on transition. So I know that we did send a mass mail out Friday last week in starting the process to give you guys information. And we will do so every week. Commander Cox and I will do so every week to continue to give you the information that we have.
Okay. Couple of closing thoughts. Your efforts, the collective community efforts to save energy really matter. Now, in the month of July, we saved 11.6% on our electric bill. If we sustain that for the year, that's $1.5 million. $1.5 million of operation money that we can then use, part of it here, part of it somewhere else, to actually do things that need to be done in the community or for the Navy. That's real. That is real. 11.6% was awesome. I mean, the base, everybody pulled in together and did a fantastic job. Truly impressive. Real money. So when I'm asking you to be thoughtful and turn off the speakers on your computer and use natural lighting as opposed to using artificial lighting, it's for a reason. It's not just, again, whether or not I hug a tree is irrelevant. It's all about trying to save taxpayer dollars and make them go the farthest for this base. We support 6 different combatant commanders: EUCOM, AFRICOM, CENTCOM, Special Operations Command, Strategic Command, and Transportation Command, all from this base. This base is supporting U.S. national security every minute of every day. People in Norfolk, they're getting trained to come over to places like this to do their mission. We're doing the mission. Okay? So when we talk about making our dollars go far, it's real. This stuff's real. So please, use the resources we have thoughtfully. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. By the way, if you got cats in there, that means you're leaving the door open and you're letting air conditioning out. Double bad on you. All right. So that's that. No, please do take it seriously.